a billionaire, one of the richest men in the city, ripping off his tailored suit and tossing his luxury watch into a gutter. Why, you ask? Because he had a plan. Every day, people smiled at his expensive car or bowed at his name. They saw the money and power, not the man inside. But he was tired of it. He felt alone at the top, even though he could buy anything. He liked to think he was rich in people, but he was wrong. He wanted to know the truth. Who would care about him if his millions vanished? For weeks he had been watching and listening. His heart sank every time someone laughed at his jokes, only when there was free champagne around. He had grown suspicious that nobody loved him, just his fortune. One rainy night, wearing a plain hoodie, torn jeans, and old sneakers, the billionaire took a deep breath and stepped out with one worn-out wallet that had a single $20 bill inside. He pretended to be broke. Early the next morning, he arrived at his own mansion. The lights were off and it was oddly quiet. Confused, he knocked on the huge door. Soon the maid opened it and rubbed her eyes in disbelief. She was expecting her wealthy boss, not a stranger. The outsider looked tired and worn with a slight limp. "Good morning, ma'am," he said politely. "I'm looking for work, whatever I can find." He had to keep a straight face as the maid stared at him, trying to figure out what this stranger was doing at the estate. She offered him coffee and something to eat, feeling a bit uneasy. "Don't worry," he added quickly. "He says he owns this place. He just lost everything in a stock market crash." That was his cover story. A complete believer that the estate owner had been ruined and could no longer afford help. The maid, named Maria, began to relax. "All right, sir," Maria said with genuine concern. "You can stay as long as you need. Times are tough for everyone." She patted his shoulder, making sure he was warm. "Hey, if I were you, I'd tell the others not to worry. We'll figure something out together." He nodded gratefully. "Thank you. I thought I had to fire everyone this morning." Maria straightened up and gave a small, humble laugh. The outsider watched her closely. So far, nobody else had bothered to comfort his staff under these rumors. He blinked, trying to hold his poker face. Even with the charade, he felt a strange warmth from her kindness. It was hard to stay mad at someone who just wanted to help others. He realized something. Maybe there was hope in human goodness after all, even in a place where wealth ruled everything. He held his breath, hoping she wouldn't disappoint. He wondered if his crazy experiment was working. What happened next would make his jaw drop. The morning had cooled off. The stranger quietly followed Maria through the house as she showed him more chores. She first pointed out a dusty hallway that needed sweeping. He picked up a broom and carefully swept the old wooden floor under her watchful eye. "Don't worry about the dust," Maria said with a smile. "You're doing fine." He cleaned along the walls and corners, trying to act confident even though he'd never done work like this before. Then she took him outside to water the garden plants. He poured water carefully over the flower beds. She watched him kindly, nodding with encouragement. Next, back in the kitchen, she asked him to wash a stack of dishes. He did, scrubbing plates and rinsing pots. All this time, Maria herself ate very little. He noticed she often missed taking regular breaks, but she never complained. Finally, Maria and the stranger sat together on the porch for a late lunch of simple sandwiches she had made. The sun was warm and quiet. He was tired and didn't say much at first, but he asked Maria about her life. "How long have you worked here?" he said gently. 10 years, Maria answered. "The family helped me when I had my baby. I've been here ever since." He nodded, impressed. "Your boss is lucky to have you," he said sincerely. She gave a small smile and shrugged. "Maybe lucky. I've got bills to pay and kids to feed," she replied softly. "But I try not to worry too much." He watched her for a moment. Maria was so selfless, always thinking of others even when she had little. He realized he was the one who had to prove himself now. After lunch, Maria stood up to clear the table and fetched her purse. In the sunlight, the stranger noticed a small bruise on her forearm. "Are you okay?" he asked. Maria quickly covered it with her hand and shook her head. "It's nothing. Just an old scratch from cleaning," she said. Maria pulled out the very last $20 bill she had. "I know you're struggling," she said quietly, handing it to him. "This is all I have, please take it." Use it to get better. Blinked in surprise. Maria, I don't need... She smiled warmly. Trust me. You look like you need it more than I do. For a moment, he was speechless. Then he remembered something. He turned around slowly, catching sight of a small camera lens hidden in the corner of the porch. He put a hand on his chest, smiling gently. Maria, I think this was a test. Am I right? She jumped back, eyes wide with shock. Sir? He pulled off his hood, revealing his face, the face she knew so well as her boss. For a long moment, they stood facing each other in silence, the truth hanging in the air. Maria gasped. He was speechless. The maid's reaction would shock everyone. Maria stood frozen for a moment, tears welling up in her eyes. She had never felt such shock in her life. The man she had known as an out-of-work stranger now stood before her. The very man she had served for years as her boss. She struggled to speak. Oh my God, sir, she whispered, almost in a trance. The billionaire took a gentle step forward and placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. Don't call me that, he said. From now on, just call me Mark. Maria blinked. Mark? Was that his name? For a long moment, the two of them just stared at each other. He saw her trembling, realized how sorry she must feel for any misunderstanding. I'm so sorry, Maria, he said, pulling her hand. I didn't mean to scare you. I had to be sure. I wanted to know who really cares about me. She shook her head slowly. I only wanted to help, she said. I didn't know it was you. Mark smiled. I know, and that makes it even more real. His eyes lit up. You are the only one who never gave up on me. You were kind without expecting anything. I am grateful. He gently reminded her of the $20. Maria lowered her eyes. I gave it away, she said. A homeless father and his child, they were hungry. I figured you needed it more. Mark's mouth dropped open. You gave it away? She looked up, worried. Yes, it felt right. The billionaire laughed, shaking his head. Maria, you truly amaze me. Most people would have kept it. I would have if I were in your shoes. Her cheeks blushed. I guess I try to be fair. He squeezed her hand. You passed my test, Maria, and then some. You showed me who you are, and you humbled me. I learned the real value of what I have. For a few moments there was silence on the porch. Finally, Mark said, I have something to tell everyone else. Are you ready to come back inside? Maria nodded. He supported her as they walked back into the house. Inside, some of the staff had gathered, wondering where Mark was. Mark cleared his throat. Everyone, he announced, I'm going to need your attention. They looked at the maid and Mark, confused. I have a confession to make, he said. Earlier, I pretended to lose all my money to test someone. This woman, Maria, was the only one who treated me with respect and kindness. No one asked her to do that. She did it on her own. A hush fell over the room. The staff whispered among themselves. Mark turned back to Maria. I want you all to know who she really is. Maria's eyes filled up. He continued, because of everything she did, I want to reward her in the most fitting way. And then he said something that made every jaw drop. Mark turned back to Maria. Because of everything she did, I want to reward her in the most fitting way. From this day on, Maria, you're not just my maid. You're my family. Your children's education, your home, your future. It's all taken care of. Maria's knees buckled as tears streamed down her face. The staff gasped, stunned into silence. She couldn't believe what she had just heard. Mark smiled warmly. You showed me what money can't buy, true kindness. And for that, I'll never let you struggle again. The room erupted with applause, but Maria could only whisper through her tears. Thank you, sir. No, thank you, Mark. Kindness. Costs nothing. But look what it gave Maria. Share this if you believe in good people.